So yes, you would use modify the perspective on the base layer. Any other questions on that? So that's how you make friends. Okay. Oh wow, we're an hour in already. So I have more things to go over, but if you have other things to do, don't be afraid to just get up and walk out. It won't hurt my feelings. I have feelings of steel. So I've got some more examples to show you guys though, and I think that they're interesting, so please feel free to stay. The next thing that I'm going to show is the Align tool. This is especially helpful for when you're designing logos or desktop wallpapers, for example. So I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to create a new desktop wallpaper, and it's going to be 640 by 480. And I want it to have white background. Now, let's say I'm a big fan of the shockers. So I'm going to open as layers my shocker image. Blue. There he is. I'm going to move him over to the side here. And you know what? I'm going to scale him down. Hit Shift-T. Of course, you can select it from the toolbox as well. And I'm going to scale him down a ways. It's maybe a little too small. That looks pretty good. So now he's scaled. But let's say I want him centered vertically. I can eyeball it, or I can maybe look at the size of the layer and the size of the image and subtract the difference and divide by 2 to determine the displacement from vertical. No, that's way too much work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the alignment tool. Then I'm going to select on the background image, and I'm going to hold Control to select move. I'm sorry, select the background image, hold Shift to Control to select move. And I'm going to hit the distribute button. So now he's centered vertically. To make that more obvious, I'm going to move him all the way to the top. Select my align tool again, background, shift, blue, distribute, vertical. So now he's aligned top to bottom in a second. Of course, the same thing works to center him horizontally, which I will demonstrate with some text. We haven't seen the text tool yet. That's because it's pretty obvious. It's just a text tool. I'm going to draw a box. I'm going to type some text. Go shocks. And of course, I'm going to change my color to black so we can actually see what's going on there. And there it is. I can change the font, and I can make it bigger. Maybe too big. And maybe I want that to be on 2 lines, so I'm going to get rid of that space. I'm going to put a line key there and make my rectangle a little bit bigger. So I see go shocks. I'm going to change this to center. Of course, if I wanted this to be centered on the image, I can either make my box as big as the image, or I can use my alignment tool. So I'm going to select my alignment tool. I'm going to select the background and then shift and click on the text and align it both horizontally and vertically, and bring it to the front by rearranging the layers. There we go. Not a very impressive background for your desktop wallpaper, but there it is. Something to demonstrate the align tool. Any questions about it?
Can you resize or have the text box selection fit to the actual text?
You can, what you can do text to selection, which will put the rendered text to the selection, and then you can crop the layer to the selection. When you do that though, what you may or may not have noticed, that I've lost the text data, and now this is just bitmap data. So this is now just a graphic. I can no longer modify the text in there. Whereas before I did that, if I right click, I could go back to text tool, and I could still change the text. So to my knowledge, there's not a good way to do that. You can do it manually by selecting text tool. No, you can't. No, I don't know a good way to do that without losing the text data. Of course, you could always duplicate the layer. Oops. Duplicate the layer, turn your old one off, and then work on your new one. That way you still have the original text there for you to work with. Any other questions? Okay, let's make a more interesting background. One of the cool things that you can do with GIMP it supports different filters, and it actually has a scripting framework, so a lot of people write plugins and stuff like that for it. But there's a lot of built-in filters that you get right out of the box. So I'm going to close this image, and I'm going to open one of the logo of the Cincinnati Bengals. It's a tiger. I don't know if you can tell that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this bigger. I'm going to make this image bigger. So I'm going to go to Image, Canvas Size. I'm going to scale it to 200%, which of course will make the image 4 times as large. Resize. Control-Shift-E to shrink wrap. Make sure everything's in view. And there's my tiger. I want him to have a friend. So I just hit Duplicate Layer. Now I have 2 tigers. I'm going to hit M for Move, and I can rearrange them a little bit. And I'm going to go back to that first layer. I'm going to flip it horizontally so that they're facing each other. And to go back to my Move tool, I'm going to kind of offset them a little bit. So there they are, my tiger friends. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to merge these 2 layers together. Right now you'll notice that they're 2 separate layers. I'm going to merge them by right-clicking and do a merge down on the layer above. So now they're 1 layer, and I'm going to modify that layer so that it's as large as the image. Layer to image size. Now that I have that, I'm going to use one of the filters that I spoke about earlier under the map menu. Oh wait, I can't. What you'll notice here is that most of these things are not available for me to select from. The reason being is that I'm working on a GIF image. And for those of you who don't know, GIF images are indexed. So the color data isn't actually stored with each pixel. Each pixel just stores an index to a color table. So in order to use a lot of the filters, you actually have to have raw data in each pixel. So I'm going to modify this image. I'm going to go to Image Mode and change it to RGB, which will convert it so that every pixel has its own information about the color that it stores instead of a reference to a color table. Now I should have all of those filters available to me. Map. I'm going to select Make Seamless. So basically what it's done here is it's made this image so that it's, it can be tiled without any seams. So I'm going to make it bigger again. Scale, canvas size, 200% one more time. And now I've got this layer. I'm going to duplicate it once, move it, so select the Move tool, M key. I'm going to click it. Now if I want to lock to a specific axis, I can hold down the Control key. That's going to lock it to the X-axis there. And I'm going to zoom in before I do that so I can make sure that I'm actually lining up. Click to move, Control key to lock. Oops. Control key to lock. And I'm going to get it right there. So now he's lined up perfectly. I'm going to zoom back out so you can kind of see what's going on there. And I'm going to merge those 2 layers together. And I'm going to duplicate that again so I can do the same thing vertically. So I'm going to grab this, move it, control the lock on an axis, move it down. I'm going to zoom in now so I can get a better view. Click to move, control the lock, and now it's in line. So I'm going to merge down again. Now you can see how that seamlessness works. I've duplicated the image 4 times, and you can't tell where the breaks really are in that image. I'm going to add some text to this image now. I want it to say Bengals. I want that text to be, actually I want that text to be kind of fancy. So I'm going to make it black right now. I'm going to increase the font size a bit. There it is, Bengals. And I'm going to move it so it's kind of off to the side there. What I'm going to do now is maybe I want to add an outline to this text. I want it to pop. So I'm going to right click on the image, and I can either do text to selection or alpha to selection. I'm going to do text to selection, and then I'm going to grow the selection. I'm going to grow it by 3 pixels. I'm going to do it by 5 pixels. I'm going to do it by 5 more pixels. I'm going to create a new layer. It's going to be transparent for now. I'm going to move it behind my text. And I'm going to select my fill tool, the bucket tool, Shift D. And I'm going to fill the whole selection with white. And now you can see that text has a nice outline to it. What I might want to do now is I have these 2 separate layers, the actual text and then its background. I could merge this layer down on top of it, but when I do that, I'm going to lose my text data. So instead of doing that, if I want to move these 2 layers, who can tell me what I should do?
Link them down.
I'm going to link the layers. Good job. So I'm going to link both of these layers. I'm going to select my move tool, and I'm going to move them, and they go together. Very nice. Put it wherever I want. And I'm going to move them behind the tigers. And I'm going to move them again. Just because I'm not very satisfied with that. So I'm going to right there. That looks pretty cool. So there's my new desktop background. Now what you'll notice is that there's a lot of transparency there. Maybe your operating system doesn't let you do transparency. So you can add a new layer with some color on it and move it to the back, to the bottom. So you can kind of see what the end result would be. Of course I can change that color. Maybe I want to use the orange that's from the tiger. I can get that orange using the eyedropper tool. And of course I need to select the layer that has the color that I want. So I selected the eyedropper tool, made sure that the tiger layer is selected. And I'm going to click down on some orange. So now I've got that orange color as my foreground color, and I'm going to fill the background with that color. That doesn't look that great. Maybe I want to change the color a little bit. I want to come in here and I want to make it a little bit darker. And that looks better. There we go. Or maybe I want to do something kind of fancy, and I want to pick my eyedropper again. Go back to my tigers. So now I have a dark orange and a light orange. I want to do a gradient, and that'll be kind of spiffy. Or maybe I want a circle gradient. Whatever you want. Sky's the limit. Go nuts. Any questions on how I did any of that? Pretty simple stuff, right? Some of the things that I haven't gone over yet, there's a heal tool, which is helpful if you've got a photo that has some artifact on a person's face. I can actually demonstrate that pretty quickly, because I have a good image for it. I'm going to open Face on Cracked Wall. And you'll notice this is a GIF as well, which means index colors, which means I can't do as many filters and fun things on it. So I'm going to change its mode right away. I'm going to change it to RGB. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to select the heal tool, which looks like a couple of bandages. The heal tool works similar to the clone tool. The difference is that it will actually blend with what's already there, as opposed to the clone tool, which will just replace what's already there. So I'm going to select the heal tool. This will help me kind of keep some of the subtle facial tones on the image when I'm repairing some of these cracks. So I'm going to hold Control to select my target area that I want to select from. And then I'm going to start filling in the gaps. And you can see there's kind of a smudge there. That's because it's actually blending with what was already there. That way it's not so obvious that you just cloned an area. Actually, before I do that, like any good photo editor knows, I'm going to actually duplicate this layer so I'm not modifying the original. And I'm going to get to work on my new layer instead. Maybe I am. Well,
It's indexed. This layer's indexed.
well, the layers won't be individually indexed.
Well, I'm just
Oh, I probably backed up
saying.
too far. Yeah, you're right. I hit Control Z to undo, and I undid all the way. Good job. Gold star. All right, so select the area that I want to select from, and now I can start the healing process. I don't know why you're laughing. It's a delicate thing. So I'm going to zoom out a bit and let you kind of see the work that I've done there. Looks pretty good. Can't even tell that she was on a cracked wall. Any questions? The heal tool. It's just like the clone tool, but it blends. What else do I have?